On the morning I was supposed to start my first real vacation in 5 years, I stood in my kitchen and felt something twist in my gut. Call it mother's intuition, call it paranoia. But when my son Darnell said, "Mom, don't worry about a thing. We'll take care of everything," the words landed wrong. Too smooth, too rehearsed, like he'd practiced them in front of a mirror. I'm Brenda Williams, 67 years old, widowed, living alone in this 3-bedroom house in Newark, New Jersey. My husband Jerome and I bought it 40 years ago for $73,000. Back then, this neighborhood was rougher around the edges, but we saw potential. Jerome saw it in everything: old furniture, broken down cars, people who'd made mistakes. He had this way of looking at the world like everything deserved a second chance. That morning, the kitchen smelled like coffee and rain. The weather forecast said storms were coming, but I'd packed anyway. My sister Diane had been begging me to visit Seattle for months. "You need to get out of that house, Bren," she'd said on our last call. "You're going to turn into a ghost if you keep living in the past." Maybe she was right. I'd barely left Newark since Jerome's funeral. The house still held him, his coffee mug on the second shelf, his flannel shirt hanging in the closet, the scent of Old Spice lingering in the bathroom. Some mornings I swore I could hear him whistling while he worked in the garage. But lately, I'd noticed other things too. Small things. The kind of things you tell yourself you're imagining until you can't anymore. 3 months ago, I caught Darnell rifling through the filing cabinet in Jerome's old office. When I asked what he was looking for, he'd said, "Just some old papers Dad wanted me to have." But Jerome had been gone for 5 years. What papers could possibly matter now? 6 months ago, my husband's gold bracelet, the one his unit gave him after his second tour in Vietnam, disappeared from my jewelry box. When I mentioned it to Darnell and his wife Keisha, they'd exchanged a look, just a flicker of something. Then Keisha had laughed and said, "Mama B, you probably just misplaced it. You know how you are. You know how you are." Like I was some forgetful old woman who couldn't keep track of her own memories. And then there were the questions. So many questions about the house. "Mom, have you thought about what this place is worth now?" Darnell had asked last Christmas. "Mama B, don't you think it's too much space for just you?" Keisha had added, her voice dripping with concern that didn't reach her eyes. I'd found a brochure for Sunset Gardens Senior Living tucked into Keisha's purse when she'd left it on my kitchen counter 2 weeks ago. When I asked her about it, she'd snatched it back and said she was just researching options for her aunt. But Keisha's aunt lived in Atlanta, and Sunset Gardens was in Newark. I'm not stupid. I'm not senile. And I sure as hell wasn't imagining things. So 3 days ago, I did something I never thought I'd do. I went to Best Buy and bought one of those hidden cameras, the kind that looks like a picture frame. The young man helping me must have been 19, maybe 20. When I told him what I needed it for, his face went soft. "Ma'am," he'd said quietly, "I hope you're wrong about whatever you're worried about." "Me too, baby," I'd replied. "Me too." I set up that camera on the bookshelf in the living room, angled just right to catch the front door and most of the main floor. Then I synced it to my phone the way the manual showed me. Technology wasn't my strong suit, but fear is one hell of a motivator. Now, standing in my kitchen with my suitcase by the door, I watched Darnell's car pull into the driveway. He got out first. 35 years old, tall like his father, with the same broad shoulders and easy smile. Keisha followed, wearing sunglasses even though the sky was heavy with clouds. "You ready for your big trip, Mama?" Darnell called out as they walked up the path. I forced a smile. "Ready as I'll ever be." Keisha pulled me into a hug that lasted a beat too long. She smelled like expensive perfume and desperation. "We'll take such good care of everything," she said, pulling back to look at me. "You just relax and have fun with Diane, okay? Don't worry about a thing here." Don't worry about a thing. The same words she'd used when she'd borrowed my mother's pearl necklace for a special dinner and returned it with the clasp broken. The same words she'd said when she'd helped Darnell organize my finances after Jerome died and somehow $3,000 went missing from my savings account. Banking error, they'd called it. "I left instructions on the counter," I said, keeping my voice light. "Numbers for the plumber, the electrician." Trash goes out on Wednesday, and I put fresh sheets in the guest room if you want to stay over." "We might do that," Darnell said, glancing at Keisha. Another look passed between them. Just to make sure everything's secure." Secure. That was a new word. "Oh, and Darnell?" I reached into my purse and pulled out a folded piece of paper. "I updated my will last month. Mr. Abraham down at the law office has the original, but I left a copy in the safe, just in case." I watched my son's face carefully. His eyes widened slightly, then he recovered. "Mom, why are you talking like that? You're going to Seattle, not dying." "You never know," I said softly. "Your father went out for cigarettes one day and had a heart attack in the 7-Eleven parking lot. Life's funny that way." Keisha's smile looked painted on. "Well, aren't you morbid today?" The cab pulled up then, saving me from having to respond. The driver, a Bangladeshi man named Omar, who'd driven me before, got out to help with my suitcase. "You have a good trip, Mrs. Williams," he said warmly. "You deserve it." As the cab pulled away, I looked back at my house. Darnell and Keisha stood on the porch, waving. To anyone else, they looked like a loving son and daughter-in-law, sad to see Mom go. But I saw the way Darnell's smile dropped the second he thought I couldn't see anymore. I saw the way Keisha pulled out her phone immediately, typing fast. And I saw the way they both turned and walked into my house like they owned it. At Newark Airport, I tried to shake off the unease. The terminal buzzed with energy. Families on vacation, business travelers hunched over laptops, teenagers glued to their phones. I bought an overpriced coffee and a magazine I'd never read. My phone buzzed. A text from Darnell. "Have a safe flight, Mom. Love you. We got everything covered here." I typed back, "Love you too, baby." Then I opened the camera app, the one connected to my hidden frame. The video feed loaded slowly, buffering. When it finally came through, I saw my empty living room. Everything looked normal. Maybe I really was being paranoid. Maybe grief had made me suspicious of my own child. Then I heard the announcement. "Attention passengers, Flight 283 to Seattle has been canceled due to severe weather conditions. Please see a customer service agent to rebook." The collective groan that went through the waiting area was almost funny. Almost. But something in my chest relaxed, like the universe had just cleared its throat. The woman next to me, maybe 40, juggling a toddler in a carry-on, looked at me with exhausted eyes. "Of course," she muttered. "Of course this happens." "Maybe it's a sign," I said. "A sign of what? That God hates me?" I smiled despite myself. "A sign that we're not supposed to be where we were going. Not yet, anyway." She looked at me like I was crazy. Maybe I was. I tried to rebook, but the next available flight wasn't for 2 days. I could have waited, gotten a hotel room, killed time in Newark. But that feeling in my gut wouldn't let go. Instead, I walked outside to where Omar was still parked, waiting for another fare. "Mrs. Williams?" He looked surprised. "Flight canceled?" "Storm's coming," I said. "Could you take me home?" Of course, of course." As we drove back through Newark, the sky had turned an angry shade of gray. The streets I'd known for 40 years looked different somehow, sharper, like I was seeing them for the first time. I pulled out my phone and called Darnell. It rang and rang and rang. Voicemail. "Hey baby, it's Mom. Flight got canceled. I'm heading back. Call me when you get this." I tried Keisha. Same thing. Voicemail. Now that twist in my gut became a knot. I called Yvonne Washington, my neighbor and best friend for 20 years. She picked up on the first ring. "Girl, what's wrong?" Yvonne could always tell. "My flight got canceled. I'm coming home, but Darnell's not picking up and I just..." "Yvonne, can you do me a favor?" "What you need?" "Can you look out your window? At my house? Tell me if you see anything strange." There was a pause. Then, "Bren, there's a moving truck in front of your house. Eagle Movers. Been there since noon." The world tilted sideways. Yvonne. "And I saw some man in a suit go in about an hour ago. White man, 50s, carrying a briefcase. He left, but the truck's still there." My hands were shaking. Omar glanced at me in the rearview mirror. "Mrs. Williams, you okay?" "How far are we from my house?" 10 minutes. Make it 5. I opened the camera app again. This time I didn't just watch. I listened. The video was grainy, the audio muffled, but I could make out shapes moving through my living room. Boxes, people carrying things, and voices. Just need to be done before she gets back. That was Keisha's voice. Told you, the paperwork is solid. A man's voice I didn't recognize. What if she comes back early? Darnell, my son, my boy. She won't. The flight's not until tonight. We have hours. The camera angle caught a glimpse of Keisha's face. She was smiling, actually smiling. Omar pulled onto my street. Which house, Mrs. Williams? The blue one, with the white trim, but don't pull up front, park across the street. He did as I asked. From here I could see everything. The moving truck, the open front door, 2 men carrying boxes out, boxes I recognized. My wedding china, Jerome's tools, the quilt his mother made us. And there, on the curb like garbage, was the wooden cradle Jerome had built with his own hands when I was pregnant with Darnell. The same cradle Darnell had slept in as a baby. The same one I'd kept in the attic, wrapped in sheets, preserving it for the grandchildren I'd thought I'd have one day. Now it sat in the rain, getting soaked, waiting for the trash truck. Something inside me cracked. Not broke. Cracked. Like ice on a pond that's been frozen too long. I pulled out my phone and started recording. Not through the hidden camera, through my own phone, right here, right now. Because whatever was about to happen, I needed proof. I needed witnesses. Omar, I said quietly, I'm going to need you to wait here, and if things get loud, I might need you to call the police. His eyes met mine in the mirror. He'd seen enough in his years driving cabs to know when something was wrong. I'll wait, Mrs. Williams, as long as you need. I got out of the cab. The rain had started, just a drizzle, but cold. It matched the ice spreading through my chest. I walked across the street, my phone recording, my heart breaking with every step. Through the open door, I could hear Keisha's voice, clear as day now. Just load those boxes first. Mama B won't even notice half this stuff is gone. Then Darnell, are you sure about this? Mom's not stupid. Oh, please. She forgets where she puts her keys half the time. This house is too much for her. We're doing her a favor. I stepped into my own doorway. They had their backs to me. Keisha was directing the movers. Darnell was wrapping my wedding china in newspaper. A favor, I said quietly. They spun around like they'd been shot. Darnell's face went white, then red, then white again. Mom, what are you... Your flight was canceled, I said. My voice surprisingly steady. Weather. Funny how things work out. Keisha recovered first. She always did. Mama B, oh my goodness, you scared us. We were helping you declutter, remember? You said you wanted to simplify things, and we thought... I said I'd think about it, I interrupted. Think, not do. And certainly not while I was on a plane 3,000 miles away. I looked at my son, really looked at him, searching for the boy who used to cry when we watched The Lion King, the teenager who'd held my hand at his father's funeral. Darnell, I said softly, baby, what are you doing? He couldn't meet my eyes. That's when I knew. Whatever was happening here, it was worse than I'd thought. Much worse. The silence that followed was the kind that makes your ears ring. Darnell stood frozen, holding my wedding china like it was evidence at a crime scene. Which I suppose it was. Keisha's smile had finally cracked. She set down the box she'd been holding and took a step toward me. Mama B, let me explain. Don't, I said, holding up my hand. Don't call me that. Don't smile. Don't do whatever it is you're about to do. I looked past them at the boxes stacked in my living room, each one labeled in Keisha's neat handwriting. Donate, sell, storage. My entire life categorized and sorted like I was already dead. How long? I asked. How long have you been planning this? Darnell finally found his voice. Mom, it's not what it looks like. It looks like you're stealing from me. The words came out harder than I intended. It looks like you waited until I left town to rob me blind. So please, baby, tell me what it actually is, because I'm real curious." One of the movers, a young black kid, maybe 25, cleared his throat. "Ma'am, we were told this was all cleared with you, that you were moving to assisted living." "Assisted living," I repeated slowly. The words tasted like poison. "Do I look like I need assisted living?" The kid looked at Darnell, then back at me. "No, ma'am, you don't." He turned to his partner. "Come on, man, we're done here." "Wait," Keisha started. "Lady, we don't do family drama," the kid said. "And we definitely don't do whatever this is." They walked out, leaving their dolly and half the boxes behind. Now it was just the three of us. Me, my son, and the woman who'd convinced him to betray me. I walked slowly to the coffee table. That's when I saw them. The papers. Spread out like a business plan. Property listings, market analyses, and right on top, a document with my name on it. I picked it up. My hands were shaking now, but I forced myself to read. Petition for conservatorship. Brenda Marie Williams. Petitioner, Darnell Jerome Williams, son. The room started to spin. "Conservatorship," I whispered. Then louder, "Conservatorship? Mom, listen, you're trying to have me declared incompetent?" The paper crinkled in my grip. "You're trying to take away my rights?" Keisha stepped forward, and for the first time I saw fear in her eyes. "Good. It's not like that. We're trying to protect you." "From what? From living in my own house? From making my own decisions?" I looked at Darnell. "Is this what your father taught you? Is this how we raised you?" "Don't bring Dad into this," he said, but his voice cracked. "He's already in it." I pointed at the cradle on the curb. "That's out there, getting ruined in the rain. The cradle your father made for you, with his own hands, while he worked double shifts at the plant so we could afford this house." Darnell's face crumpled. "I know. Then why?" My voice broke. "Why would you do this to me?" That's when I noticed another document. This one had a medical letterhead. Dr. William Sullivan, neurologist. I picked it up, my stomach turning. Medical assessment. Patient Brenda Williams shows signs of progressive dementia and cognitive decline. Patient exhibits memory loss, confusion, and inability to manage daily affairs. Recommendation: full-time care facility. My vision went white at the edges. "I've never seen Dr. Sullivan in my life," I said slowly. "I've never had a neurological exam. My doctor is Dr. Patel, and she saw me 2 weeks ago for my physical. Clean bill of health." Silence. "Brenda," Keisha started. "Mrs. Williams," I corrected, "and you need to start talking right now." She looked at Darnell. He looked at the floor. And in that moment, I understood something that made my blood run cold. They'd forged it. They'd forged medical documents to make me look incompetent. "Oh my God," I breathed. "You were going to lock me up. You were going to put me in a home and tell everyone I'd lost my mind." "No." Darnell finally looked up. "Mom, no. We needed the paperwork to look real enough to what? Sell my house? Take my money? Put me away?" Each word was a knife. "What was the plan, Darnell? Walk me through it. I want to hear every detail." Keisha's mask finally shattered. "Fine. You want the truth? We're drowning, Brenda. We're $30,000 in debt. Darnell lost his job 6 months ago." "What?" I stared at my son. "You told me you got a promotion." "I lied," he said quietly. "I got fired, and then I made some bad choices." "What kind of bad choices?" Keisha answered. "He gambled. Online poker, sports betting. He thought he could win it back. He lost $75,000. The number hit me like a physical blow. 75,000, and the people he owes?" Keisha's voice rose. "They're not nice people, Mama B. They threatened him. They came to our apartment. They said if we didn't pay by the end of the month..." She stopped. Didn't finish. Didn't need to. I looked at my son. Really looked at him. and for the first time I saw what I'd been too loving to notice before. The weight loss, the dark circles, the way his hands shook slightly when he held my china. "So your solution," I said slowly, "was to steal from your mother?" "We weren't stealing," Darnell said desperately. "We were going to give you money from the sale, set you up in a nice place. You'd still have plenty after you took what you needed." "After we survived," Keisha snapped. "You live in a house worth $800,000, alone, while your son is about to get his legs broken by loan sharks. Forgive us for thinking you might help." "Help?" The word exploded out of me. "You think forging documents and declaring me mentally incompetent is asking for help?" "We didn't think you'd say yes." "So you didn't bother asking," I was shouting now. "You didn't think I might understand, that I might want to protect my child. You just decided I was in the way and found a way to remove me." Darnell was crying now, full, ugly sobs. "Mom, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I was scared and stupid, and I didn't know what else to do. You could have told me the truth." "Would you have given us $75,000? The question hung in the air. Would I have? I wanted to say yes. I wanted to believe I was the kind of mother who'd drain her savings to save her son. But $75,000? That was most of what Jerome and I had worked our whole lives to save. "I don't know," I said honestly. "But you never gave me the chance to find out." A car door slammed outside. I turned to see Yvonne walking up the path, and behind her, my heart stopped. Behind her was a white man in an expensive suit carrying a briefcase, mid-50s with silver hair and a smile that probably worked on juries. "Mrs. Williams?" He extended his hand. "Marcus T. Bishop, Bishop Realty. I was just leaving, but I wanted to introduce myself. Your son and daughter-in-law have been discussing—" "I know what they've been discussing," I said coldly. "Did you know I never authorized any of this?" His smile faltered. I was shown power of attorney documents. Forged ones." The smile died completely. "Excuse me?" I grabbed the conservatorship petition and shoved it at him. "Did you see this? Did you know they were trying to declare me mentally incompetent to steal my house?" Bishop's face went pale as he read. I was told this was all legal. I was told you'd agreed to move." "Does it look like I agreed to anything?" He looked at Darnell and Keisha. Whatever he saw in their faces made him take a step back. "I need to make a phone call." He pulled out his phone with shaking hands. If what you're saying is true, this is fraud. Jesus Christ." "Call the police while you're at it," Yvonne said, stepping into the house. She pulled out her own phone. "Because I've been recording from the porch for the last 10 minutes. Got everything on video." Keisha's face went ashen. "You can't." "I can, and I did." Yvonne looked at me, her eyes full of sadness. "Bren, honey, I'm so sorry. But you need to protect yourself now." She was right. God help me. She was right. I pulled out my phone and dialed 911. "Mom, please." Darnell reached for me. "Don't touch me," I said, and something in my voice made him freeze. "Don't say another word. You've said enough." The operator answered. 911, what's your emergency?" I took a breath, steadied myself. "My name is Brenda Williams. I'm at 428 Maple Avenue in Newark. I need to report an attempted theft and fraud." My voice was calm now, eerily calm. "My son and his wife tried to forge documents to have me declared incompetent so they could steal my house." Darnell collapsed onto the couch, his head in his hands. Keisha stood frozen, mascara starting to run down her face. And I stood in my living room, my husband's living room, my home, and waited for the police to come take away my only child. "Officers are on the way, ma'am," the operator said. "Are you safe? Are you in any danger?" I looked at my son, at the boy I'd raised, the man he'd become. "No," I said softly. "The danger's past. I'm safe now." But as I said it, I wasn't sure it was true. Because the real danger wasn't physical. It was the kind that lived in your chest, in the spaces where love used to be. Through the window, I could see red and blue lights approaching. The rain was coming down harder now, washing down the street, pooling in the gutters. The wooden cradle on the curb was completely soaked, the wood Jerome had sanded smooth and painted white, now dark with water. Ruined, like everything else. Officer Jamal Thompson was the first through the door. Tall, maybe 40, with kind eyes that had seen too much. Behind him came Detective Sharon Reed, a black woman in her 50s with silver-streaked hair pulled back tight. "Mrs. Williams?" Detective Reed's voice was professional but gentle. "I'm Detective Reed. Can you tell me what happened here?" I told them everything. Showed them the forged documents, the conservatorship petition, the medical assessment I'd never had. Yvonne showed them her video. Marcus Bishop, looking sick, confirmed he'd been shown power of attorney papers that now seemed fraudulent. Detective Reed's expression grew harder with each piece of evidence. "Mr. Williams," she said, turning to Darnell, "I need you to stand up, please." "Wait," Keisha started forward. "Ma'am, you need to step back. He didn't mean... We were just trying to..." "You were trying to commit elder abuse," Reed said flatly. "You forged medical documents. You attempted to defraud this woman of her property. You planned to have her declared incompetent and institutionalized against her will." She looked at Darnell. "Sir, put your hands behind your back." "No," I heard myself say. "No, please." But Officer Thompson was already pulling out handcuffs. "Mom," Darnell's voice cracked. "Mom, please, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry." "Darnell Williams, you're under arrest for attempted fraud, forgery, and financial elder abuse. You have the right to remain silent." The words faded into background noise. All I could hear was my son crying. All I could see was the boy who used to hold my hand crossing the street. The teenager who'd read to me when I had the flu. The man who'd held me at his father's funeral and promised, "I'll take care of you, Mom. Always." Always. What a lie that turned out to be. "Mrs. Williams?" Detective Reed's voice cut through my thoughts. "Are you all right?" Was I all right? My son was being arrested. My daughter-in-law was next. My house was half-packed in boxes labeled for sale. "No," I said. "No, I'm not all right." "We'll need you to come down to the station to give a formal statement." I nodded numbly. As they led Darnell out, he turned back one last time. Our eyes met, and in that moment I saw everything. The little boy, the troubled teenager, the desperate man, all of him at once. "I love you, Mom," he whispered, "and God help me." Even after everything, I whispered back, "I know." But love wasn't enough anymore. Love hadn't protected me. Love had made me blind. The door closed behind them. The house went quiet except for the rain drumming on the roof. Yvonne put her arm around me. "Come on, honey, let's sit down." But I couldn't sit. I couldn't move. I just stood there, looking at the boxes, the scattered papers, the half-empty rooms. And I wondered if this was what dying felt like. Not the body shutting down, but the heart finally understanding it had been beating for people who'd stopped caring a long time ago. The days after Darnell's arrest passed in a fog. I gave my statement at the police station. Detective Reed recorded every word while I sat under fluorescent lights that made everything feel unreal. I signed papers. I answered questions. I watched my life become a case number. The media got hold of it. Local woman's son arrested for elder abuse scheme. They didn't use our names at first, but Newark's not that big. People knew. I stopped going to church. Stopped answering the phone unless it was Yvonne or my lawyer. Mitchell Abraham, my attorney, was a silver-haired Jewish man in his 60s who'd practiced family law for 40 years. When I first sat in his office, he'd looked at me with eyes that had seen too many stories like mine. "Mrs. Williams," he'd said gently, "I need to ask you something difficult. Do you want to press charges?" They already arrested him. The state pressed charges based on the evidence, but you have a choice. You can testify, or you can ask the prosecutor to show leniency. You're the victim here. Your voice matters. I'd stared at my hands, the same hands that had changed Darnell's diapers, held him through nightmares, applauded at his high school graduation. I need time to think, I'd whispered. That was 3 days ago. Now I sat alone in Jerome's old office, staring at the filing cabinet Darnell had been searching through months earlier. What had he been looking for? What was so important? I opened the bottom drawer. Old tax returns, mortgage documents, Jerome's discharge papers from the Army. And there, in the very back, a manila envelope with my name on it in Jerome's handwriting. For Brenda, only if something happens to me. My hands shook as I opened it. Inside was a letter, 5 pages, front and back, dated 2 weeks before Jerome's heart attack, before he died in that 7-Eleven parking lot while I was home making dinner. My dearest Brenda, if you're reading this, I'm gone, and there are things I need to tell you, things I should have said when I was alive but was too ashamed to. You know how I always told you I was going to the VA for my checkups? How I'd disappear Tuesday nights for poker with the boys? I was gambling, real gambling. Atlantic City, underground poker games, sports betting. Started about 3 years after we bought this house. Thought I could make some extra money, ease the burden. Instead, I dug us into a hole. My vision blurred. I had to stop reading, take a breath, force myself to continue. By 1989, I'd lost $42,000. $42,000, Brenda. Nearly everything we'd saved. I took out a second mortgage on the house without telling you. I borrowed from men who would have hurt me, hurt us, if I didn't pay. I was going to lose everything. Our home, our family, you. But then I did something I should have done from the start. I told you the truth. Remember that night I came home crying? You thought it was about my back pain, but it was shame. Pure shame. And you held me. You didn't yell or leave. You held me and said, "We'll fix this. Together." And we did. You worked double shifts at the hospital. I worked 3 jobs. We paid off those men, saved the house, and I never gambled again. Not once in 27 years. But here's what I learned, Rosie. Good people can make terrible choices when they're desperate. And the difference between someone who stays lost and someone who finds their way back is simple. They need someone who believes they can. You were that person for me. You gave me a second chance when I didn't deserve it. You saw past my mistake to the man I could still be. So if Darnell ever falls the way I did, and God, I hope he doesn't, but addiction runs in families, please remember, he's not his worst moment, just like I wasn't mine. Second chances matter, Brenda. They save lives. All my love, always, Jerome. I read the letter 3 times. Then I sat in that office and cried until I had nothing left. Jerome had gambled. My perfect husband, the man I'd built a shrine to in my memory, had nearly destroyed us. And I'd forgiven him. Not just forgiven, but fought beside him to rebuild what he'd broken. So why couldn't I do the same for Darnell? But a voice in my head, maybe my own, maybe Yvonne's, whispered back. Jerome confessed. He asked for help. Darnell tried to lock you away. There was a difference between making a mistake and making a victim, wasn't there? The preliminary hearing was set for Friday morning. Mitchell had prepared me for what would happen. The prosecutor would present evidence. The judge would decide if there was enough to proceed to trial. Darnell and Keisha would likely plead not guilty. The prosecutor is offering a deal, Mitchell told me Thursday afternoon. If they plead guilty, 18 months probation, 500 hours of community service, full restitution of any financial damages, mandatory counseling, and a 5-year restraining order. Restraining order? I repeated. So I couldn't see my son for 5 years? You could modify it later if both parties agree. But Mrs. Williams, I need to be honest with you. Without a plea deal, this goes to trial. And trials are ugly. They'll try to paint you as confused, forgetful. They'll argue you did agree to everything. It'll be your word against theirs. But we have evidence. Evidence they'll claim was misunderstood. He leaned forward. I've been doing this a long time. In cases like these, the best outcome is accountability without destruction. They admit what they did, face consequences, but don't spend years in prison. And if I want them in prison? His expression softened. Then I'll fight like hell to put them there. But Brenda? May I call you Brenda? I nodded. You need to decide what you want the end of this story to be. Revenge? Justice? Healing? Because you can't have all three. That night I sat on my porch with Jerome's letter in my lap and watched the sun set over Newark. The maple trees swayed in the breeze. Somewhere down the street, children were playing. Life went on. It always did. My phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Mrs. Williams? A woman's voice, young, hesitant. This is Keisha's sister, Tanisha. I know I shouldn't be calling, but I needed you to know something. I'm listening. Keisha's a lot of things, but she's not evil. When Darnell got in trouble with those loan sharks, she sold her grandmother's engagement ring, sold her car, emptied her own savings. She tried everything before they came up with that plan. A pause. I'm not excusing what they did. It was wrong. So wrong. But she loves him, Mrs. Williams. She was trying to save him. By destroying me? By saving him the only way she could think of. She was desperate and scared, and she made the worst choice possible. Tanisha's voice cracked. I don't know if you can forgive that. I wouldn't blame you if you couldn't. I wanted you to know it came from fear, not hate. After she hung up, I sat with those words. Fear, not hate. Jerome had acted from fear too. Fear of losing our home. Fear of letting me down. And I'd forgiven him because I understood that desperation makes people into strangers. But I'd also set boundaries. Made him get help. Insisted on counseling. Checked the bank statements for years afterward. Forgiveness without accountability was just enabling. Friday morning I walked into the courthouse wearing the navy dress Jerome had always said made me look strong. Yvonne held my arm. Mitchell walked beside us. The courtroom was smaller than I expected. Wood paneling, fluorescent lights, the smell of old paper and floor polish. Darnell and Keisha sat at the defense table with their public defender, a tired-looking woman in her 30s. Darnell looked thinner. Keisha looked hollow. Judge Beatrice Howard entered, a black woman in her mid-50s with steel-gray hair and reading glasses on a chain. She had the bearing of someone who'd heard every excuse and believed none of them. All rise. The Honorable Judge Howard presiding. We sat. The prosecutor, a sharp-eyed woman named Lisa Chen, stood and presented the charges. Forgery, attempted fraud, financial elder abuse. Each word landed like a hammer. The defendants wish to enter a plea, the public defender said. My heart stopped. Mr. Williams, Mrs. Williams, Judge Howard said, looking at Darnell and Keisha. How do you plead? Darnell stood slowly. Guilty, Your Honor. Keisha followed. Guilty. The judge nodded. The court accepts these pleas. Before sentencing, I'd like to hear from the victim. Mrs. Brenda Williams, would you like to make a statement? Mitchell nodded at me. This was it, the moment I'd been dreading and needing in equal measure. I stood, walked to the podium, looked at my son. Your Honor, I began, and my voice only shook a little. 32 years ago, my husband came home and confessed he'd gambled away our savings. He'd lied to me, hid things from me, put our family at risk. I pulled out Jerome's letter. He left me this before he died. In it, he talks about second chances, about how I saved his life by believing he could do better. I looked at Darnell. His eyes were red. But my husband did something my son didn't do. He told me the truth. He asked for help. He didn't try to declare me incompetent and lock me away. My voice hardened. What Darnell and Keisha did wasn't just theft. It was betrayal. It was deciding I was worth more to them as a problem to solve than as a person to love. Keisha was crying now, silent tears running down her face. I've thought a lot about what I want from this, and I realized I don't want revenge. Revenge won't give me back my trust, won't undo the hurt. I took a breath, but I also don't want to enable them. If I just forgive and forget, what does that teach? That betrayal is fine as long as you're family? I looked at Judge Howard. Your Honor, I want accountability. I want them to understand that actions have consequences. I want them to get help, real help, for the problems that led them here. And I want time to heal, time to decide if I can ever let them back into my life. Are you saying you support the plea deal? The judge asked. I'm saying I support justice over vengeance, and I believe justice includes the chance to do better, but that chance has to be earned, not given. I sat down. My legs were shaking. Judge Howard studied the documents before her. Then she looked at Darnell and Keisha. I've seen a lot of elder abuse cases, she said. Usually the defendants claim they were helping, that they knew better than the victim what was needed. You two took it further. You tried to declare a competent woman incompetent. You forged medical documents. You planned to institutionalize her against her will. Her voice could have cut glass. This was calculated, methodical, and it was cruel. Darnell's shoulders shook. However, the judge continued, Mrs. Williams has asked for accountability over punishment, and I respect that. She looked at the plea agreement. 18 months supervised probation, 500 hours of community service at a senior center where you'll see firsthand the people you victimized, full financial restitution of any costs Mrs. Williams incurred, mandatory gambling addiction counseling and family therapy, and a no-contact order for 6 months, modifiable after that period only with Mrs. Williams's consent and a family therapist's approval. She banged her gavel. This court is adjourned. It was over, just like that. 6 months later, I stood in my kitchen making coffee. The morning light filtered through curtains I'd replaced. Needed something new, something that wasn't tied to old memories. The house felt different now, smaller, somehow. But it was mine, truly mine. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Mom, it's me. I've been going to GA for 6 months. 90 meetings in 90 days. Got a sponsor. Working 2 jobs to pay you back. I know I can't fix what I broke, but I'm trying to fix myself. I love you. I stared at the message for a long time. Then I typed back. I know you're trying. That matters. But trust takes time. Another buzz. I understand. I'll wait as long as it takes. I set the phone down. Outside, Yvonne was walking up the path with a bag of bagels and her usual Friday morning smile. You okay? She asked when I let her in. I'm getting there. And it was true. Some days were harder than others. Some nights I still dreamed of Darnell as a little boy, waking up confused about why my heart hurt. But I was healing. Slowly. On my own terms. I'd started volunteering at the senior center, the same one where Darnell was doing his community service, though our shifts never overlapped. I'd helped 3 other elderly people identify and stop financial abuse by family members. Turned out I was good at spotting the signs now. I'd also joined a support group. 12 people, all dealing with family betrayal. All learning that loving someone and protecting yourself could coexist. I got another letter from Keisha, I told Yvonne as we ate bagels at the kitchen table. What did this one say? The same thing the others have said. That she's sorry. That she understands why I can't forgive her yet. That she hopes someday I can. I stirred my coffee. I think I might write back. Not to forgive, just to acknowledge. That's progress, honey. Or weakness. No, Yvonne said firmly. Weakness would have been pretending nothing happened. Strength is setting boundaries while leaving the door open for change. That's what you're doing. Maybe she was right. That afternoon, I sat on my porch with a notepad. After an hour of false starts, I finally wrote, Keisha, I've received your letters. All 52 of them. I'm not ready to respond to most of what you've said. But I want you to know I understand you were trying to save your husband. I don't agree with how you did it. I may never agree, but I understand the why. Fear makes people desperate. Desperation makes people cruel. I'm learning that cruelty doesn't always mean evil. Sometimes it just means human. I need more time, but I'm not saying never. I'm just saying not yet. Brenda, I sealed the envelope before I could second-guess myself. That evening I pulled out the photo albums. Not to torture myself, but to remember. Jerome at our wedding. Young, handsome, full of promises he mostly kept. Darnell as a baby, as a child, as a teenager. All the birthdays and Christmases and ordinary moments that made a life. They were still real. The betrayal didn't erase them. It just added a painful chapter to a story that wasn't finished yet. My phone rang. Mitchell Abraham. Brenda, I wanted to update you. Darnell's made his third restitution payment. On time, full amount. And his therapist sent a progress report to the court. He's doing well. Really working the program. That's good, I said. And I meant it. Also, Mitchell continued, he's asked if, after the 6 months are up, you'd consider having a supervised meeting, just coffee, with his therapist present. No pressure. You can absolutely say no. I looked at Jerome's picture on the mantel, remembered his letter. Second chances matter, Brenda. They save lives. Tell him I'll think about it, I said. But if we do meet, it's on my terms, my timeline. And it doesn't mean I'm ready to be his mother again. Just that I'm willing to listen. I'll let him know. After I hung up, I walked through the house. Every room told a story. Some painful now, some still beautiful. This house had been my haven, my prison, my battleground, and finally, slowly, my sanctuary again. I'd changed the locks, installed security cameras, updated my will with clear instructions, told my doctor to never release information to anyone without my written consent. I'd learned that trust wasn't a gift you gave. It was something earned, sometimes over decades, and lost in a moment. But I'd also learned something Jerome had known all along. People were more than their worst decisions. And sometimes, not always, but sometimes, the story didn't have to end with the betrayal. Sometimes, if you were strong enough, wise enough, and careful enough, you could write a new chapter. One where accountability and love coexisted. Where forgiveness didn't mean forgetting, and second chances came with receipts. I stood in the kitchen doorway looking at the home Jerome and I had built. The home Darnell had tried to steal. The home that was still, always, mine. And I thought, maybe healing doesn't mean going back to how things were. Maybe it means accepting how things are and deciding what comes next. I didn't have all the answers. But for the first time in 6 months, I had something almost as good. I had hope. Careful, cautious, bounded hope. But hope nonetheless. Outside, the sun set over Newark. The maple trees swayed. Life went on, and so did I.